Number one, it would be connected in your own household. The more that men are connected in their household, the less that violence can occur in that household. And I always use this analogy, if you were a thief going around breaking into neighborhoods and a particular person had a vicious dog there, a pit bull, let's say, you would pick another neighborhood, another house, if you will, because you didn't want to be confronted by that particular pit bull, if you will. And so when fathers are present and active, there are less things that absolutely go into households. And I want dads to know they're needed and also their valued. So number one, dads getting connected, reconnected even in their own households.
Today's guest is Daryl Dudley, a thought leader and father on a mission to inspire a world where every daughter is safe, valued, and free. As the founder of She's My Daughter, he mobilizes men, especially fathers, to be protectors, encouragers, and champions for the women in their lives. His message is rooted in hope, not shame. And he invites all of us to step into the work of making the world safer for every daughter. Welcome, Daryl.
Thank you so much for having me, Anita. I appreciate it.
This is my absolute pleasure. So I'm really interested in this subject, especially as I've been sexually abused as a child. So, it just like absolutely human trafficking. It doesn't get any better. But we'll go into that. So with that said, what is one of the most courageous things that you have done?
I think the most courageous thing that I have done was really start this organization and really just making a step forward in making sure that women are valued, honored, protected around the globe. Not a lot of people are doing this. Not a lot of men are doing this. But I really feel it was really a call from on high to make a difference in this world and to sort of jettison or put aside some of my personal desires in different areas to really be a force in this area.
Absolutely. And I think it's wonderful what you're doing. So what took you on your journey of being the founder of She's My Daughter?
About 20 years ago, I was actually a youth advocate and a youth pastor in my particular church I was at, but also a community leader as well. And one of the things that we would do as a part of our work was have these seminars called If You Didn't Know, Now You Know. And what they were just enlightening parents on some of the dangers and challenges that are in the media. And Anita, when we did a lot of our research, we found out how much dishonor and violence there was directed towards women specifically throughout all media, music, TV, movies, and it became normalized. And I thought to myself, you know what, we can do better than that because all of these things that are in our mindset about women that we receive through media end up coming out a lot of times in the actions of society. And so out of these, we get human trafficking, very often domestic violence, child sexual exploitation, sexual assault. And I just knew that we could make a difference in these areas. And so over time, over the last 17 years, when we've been able to influence lives and create a different peer pressure where it's no longer acceptable to do these things. It's no longer acceptable to treat women as if they're less than. And so we want a different world. And we know that with our actions and activities and those who partner alongside of us and those who are doing this similar work can make a real difference in the lives of all daughters now and also in the future.
Absolutely. I can't echo it enough. And that's what we all want. And yet there's still so much that is happening that is not that around the globe. There's no particular area where, it might be more or less, but it happens still this day and age. Human trafficking, rape, assault. How come, I'm just thinking out aloud here. How come this is not, being dealt with more? I absolutely applaud what you're doing and it needs to be heard. I heard about you and I thought, yeah, let's have you on the show because we need to get this message out there. you envision a world without rape, sexual assault, domestic abuse, and human trafficking. Tell me more about that.
Absolutely. I know it's a grandiose dream and vision to have that world, but every woman deserves that. And one of the things, Anita, is that whatever we want to accomplish, if we put our minds to it, we put our resources to it, we put our time to it, we can actually accomplish that goal. And we see that not only in individuals like you and I, but also we see that in communities and societies. Had the opportunity recently to speak to a group of prep school leaders in high school, and one of the things I asked them the same question, why don't we attack this issue more vehemently? Why don't we put more resources into it? And I asked them the question, I said, if a certain city wanted to bring the Olympic Committee in to consider their city for the Olympics, they would clean the city up with every bit of resources they have. All the streets would be clean.
Mm,
Dirty areas would be different. They would remove homeless encampments all around the city and present their best foot forward for whatever time the Olympic Committee was in town. And if they wanted to continue that, they would continue that for as long as they wanted to. If we could do that for an issue like that, why can't we take a concerted effort to do that for women? It is because at the base level, we really don't respect and honor and value women at the level they should be respected and honored. And that's why we want to make a real change. We know it starts in the hearts and minds of men to make a change, but also it's about teaching young children how to value and honor one another so that in some years down the road, we could see a world where women can move about without that fear of violence. It's a big, big goal, big dream, but I am inspired, encouraged, and passionate about getting there.
absolutely. And at least you've started it. That's the thing. It's the knock on effect. Get more people involved, and people will come and they will want this too. Absolutely. So, what practical roles can men play in making the world safer for daughters everywhere?
Every man, Anita, can be a hero. First of all, in their
Mm.
own household. So one of the biggest things we do is encourage fathers to be really, really connected in their own households, to make valuable connections with their daughters and all the women who are in their specific households. Oftentimes, men are find themselves separated because they don't think that children are listening to them or their daughters value
Mm.
their opinions or their thoughts. But really, we do know that they are listening to us. Everything doesn't go in one ear and out the other. And so, number one, it would be connected in your own household. The more that men are connected in their household, the less that violence can occur in that household. And I always use this analogy. If you were a thief going around breaking into neighborhoods, and a particular person had a vicious dog there, a pit bull, let's say, you would pick another neighborhood, another house, if you will, because you didn't want to be confronted by that particular a pit bull, if you will. And so when fathers are present and active, there are less things that absolutely go into households. And I want dads to know they're needed and also they're valued. So number one, dads getting connected, reconnected even in their own households. And then the second thing is that when we're in our sphere of influence, when we're at work, when we're in the community, when we're in our churches, our synagogues, that we value and honor women. Too often, women are just valued because of their bodies, because of their physicality, and they're very often commented just because of that. But I want to encourage every man to really value a woman's intellect and just honor her just because she is a human being. So we've got to be very, very careful about the words that we say. So practical example is just to give positive words of encouragement to women that are in your sphere of influence, especially in these public spheres like work and where your house of worship are. Speak to their intellect, applaud them on their accomplishments, and do it out in public so people see it and that we have this reverse peer pressure where others say, hey, that's the thing to do now. And I think that if we do that, then we can really change society as it pertains to how women are valued, see a difference in their ability to move about the world without fear of violence. So, you know, household number one, community, sphere of influence number two. And through a groundswell, we can make a change happen. I'm excited about that possibility, Anita.
Absolutely, and I can't echo it enough. And I love your analogy about the pit bull dog. And absolutely, people wouldn't go there. And this is where it really does start. Like you've completely demonstrated, it's your household first, then the community, then the town, and it ripples out into the wider community, the world. And it really has to start in everybody's household. I can't echo that enough. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And difference can happen. It's going to take some time,
Yeah.
but we can have a different society. One of the things, the reason why it got or it is getting so large and continuing to grow is because a lot of the things are happening in the dark. And so in
Mm,
your particular situation, I appreciate your vulnerability about that. And in other situations, especially child sexual assault, it happens in the dark. And of course, a child would be afraid to tell anybody. And too often we
mm,
hear stories of where they did speak to someone about what was going on and they weren't listened to. They were just
mm,
jettisoned off to the side. And that creates this culture where people are afraid to make a noise about what's going on. So that's one of the reasons child sexual assault happens so frequently. Domestic violence the same way. Not a lot of people know about what's going on in the household, and people can be getting abused, and it's just done in the secret. In terms of things like human trafficking, over
mm,
here in the States, very often we thought this was going on somewhere else. The movies and Liam Neeson would tell us that this happened over, some parts of Eastern Europe or somewhere else. But in every neighborhood, rich or poor, these things are going on every single day, multiple times a day. But I do believe that if we put our antennas up, speak up when we know about things, and encourage others to speak up when they know about things, that we can make a real difference here in our societies.
absolutely. And thank you for your kind words about my situation. Yes. And it really is. It does get looked over. People don't feel safe enough to speak up. That's one of the things. And if, even like when you've just said, when they do, they get pushed along to one side. It's still swept under the carpet. I can't understand this day and age why. You need to give everybody a chance to explain what is happening. And even if you don't believe them, act accordingly. Do something about it. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We've got to speak up about it. We've got to investigate situations. We got to hold people accountable. I was in a very challenging situation recently. Had to speak at this particular church right outside of Washington, D.C., about the work that I do. And I was alongside another young lady on the panel, and she spoke about how that her babysitter, who was a family friend, sexually assaulted her when she was a young girl when he was babysitting her. Everybody completely trusted him, but now we know that more than 50% of child sexual assault happens by someone that is actually known by the family and trusted by
Mm,
the family. But she began to speak about her situation, and she actually, many years later, told her mom about it. They actually prosecuted the person, and he actually went to jail. It was
mm,
really a situation that was very, very rare for that to happen. But he went to jail for about 14 years, I believe. And as we were sitting in there was a couple of ladies who had immigrated from Africa, and the room went silent when she began to talk. And during
mm,
question and answer time, they stood up and they said, "We're so grateful that you had the opportunity to uh, take your assailant and get him prosecuted, get him convicted. However, in our places where we live, we wouldn't even bring the issue up because we know we would never be able to prove him or get him convicted. And there was a level of sadness that I had never seen before. You could look all over the room and see just sad faces, and you knew immediately that things had happened to these ladies that they had not spoke about, and they just kept them suppressed. And when I hear stories like that, that just fuels me because I know I can be a voice for those who have not a voice.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things that, especially being Indian, Asian, that's why I started my podcast to talk about the things that are always swept under the carpet, that are not talked about. Absolutely. Because in life, you can't go on like that. It needs to be put some light onto it and dealt with. Absolutely. So, how brave and courageous are people when they speak up? And the sad thing is when they're not believed. That's soul destroying.
Soul destroying. You know that's so powerful, Anita. And when you think about that, if you think about what the stats say, around 60 to 75% of women have gone through some type of inappropriate touch, if you will,
Mhm.
that they're walking around with their soul having been destroyed. And it just doesn't stop after the inappropriate activities have happened. This thing goes on throughout life. And so it causes us as just as human beings to be understanding when we see people, to be more patient with people, to understand that, hey, this is not just some angry woman here just for no reason at all. Maybe indeed something happened to her that was inappropriate. Maybe she was violated in a way that was atrocious. And so,
Yes.
it caused us, to human beings, to be more compassionate, more encouraging, and more understanding as we matriculate with women who are, well beyond childhood.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't agree more. So, how do you see She's My Daughter creating global change?
Absolutely, we're blessed to have constituents and volunteers really around the globe, literally in every continent, who do various things for us. And one of the practical things that we do is we bring practical applications of kindness to women survivors. So we encourage our volunteers, and we do big things here in our own community to help women survivors by going into shelters and to safe houses, and bringing just toiletries, bringing things that they would need. And the biggest thing is not necessarily that we bring in products and stuff for them to use, but just for them to see our face and to be encouraged that there are men and also women out there who care about them, who love them, who want to see them get back to some sense of normalcy. And so that's a big thing we do, and we encourage that around the globe. And so, I can think of and recall the many times that I've been in the shelter here in Washington D.C. And once you go in there, your life is just completely different. Immediately, you'll see the look on women's faces who are in these shelters, and how it seems like their soul has just been crushed. Right, hope is just completely gone, but they're joyous to see other people who care about them. So that's the one other thing I encourage everybody to do, is to go into your local shelters and safe houses, and just be a blessing to them. See what they need, provide that to them. And so that's what She's My Daughter we do in a practical way. The other thing that we do is work with programs that help young girls to build and enliven their self-esteem, because the greater self-esteem that they have, the less likely they are to fall prey to predators off and online. And so we want to encourage, we want to value young girls, so that when they go out into school, in the neighborhoods, wherever they are, they feel emboldened and empowered to say no to those who might want to do harm to them. And so again, we work with the survivors, but we also work with those because we don't want them to end up in the place of having to be a survivor. And so we're doing that. We speak to men's group really specifically about how we can make a change in the lives of women, just by being honoring to them, and valuing them at the highest level. One of the things that we do when we go and speak to men is, at the beginning of our talks, we'll take a glass vase, and we will have each man write on a sticky pad the name of their daughter. We'll take that sticky pad, put it on that vase, if you will, put that in a pillowcase, and then we'll take that pillowcase, slam it to the ground. we take all the pieces and pour those out on the table and show them all the broken pieces. And we say, hey, when a woman is violated, this is what the results look like. Certainly, that we
Mm.
know there can be a healing process that takes place, and people will come alongside of them, and God certainly is part of that healing process. But also, there's a level of brokenness that will remain with them very often throughout their lives. And we say, hey, we know we would fight vehemently against our daughter having to go through any level of brokenness. Why don't we do this for every daughter who's out there on the planet? Why don't we watch what we say? Why don't we say, listen, all this activity,
Mm.
inappropriateness, and inappropriate touching, this violation, these are things of our terrible, our violent past, but no longer will we accept these because we don't want our daughters or any daughters to go through life broken.
That's so beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I could visualize that as you were talking about it. And it's absolutely right what you're saying. I mean, these are pasts, generations. It doesn't need to happen now. Why has it not stopped? Absolutely. So you are the founder of the non-profit organization. She's My Daughter. How can people help towards that or take something from that and do it themselves?
Absolutely. So one of the things you can always reach out to us on our website. Um, but I also would encourage you to get involved in local organizations that are in your community. There's something really powerful about connecting with those in your community already. So I would encourage everybody to seek out organizations that are helping with survivors. And it doesn't have to be anything really big. Sometimes you can donate. Sometimes you can donate and also spend time at the shelters, just helping and encouraging them. They need to see, especially men, they need to see that there are men out there who don't come to harm. They need to
Yeah.
see there are men out there who they can absolutely trust. They need to see that there are men out there who value and honor them at the highest level. And that can really be a huge change. So I would encourage everybody to get involved there in your local communities. I would encourage everybody to think about a young girl that you could just say positive words to, right? It might be a neighborhood young lady that you could just say something positive to, speak to her intellect, speak to her accomplishments, celebrate her openly. Do that again. We want to build, nurture, and enliven the self-esteem of young girls. Very often, there are young girls that we see all the time that don't have any connection with their father, any type of male role model. Certainly, connect with her mom and those, and be sort of a team, if you will, and help
Mm.
just bring value to who she is. All dads, I would encourage you to encourage your sons uh, to be encouragers to women that they encounter in school, on the playground, at home, in sports areas, build them up, lift them up, help advance who they are. Let them know again that there are men out there who want to see them do well. And so that was to be the biggest things that I would have people do. Get connected right where you are and make a difference in the world for women.
I think that's so beautiful because not only, encouraging everyone, but from a young age as well. Absolutely. The male roles, young boys, fathers, absolutely. And it really does. That's what gives them the hope of feeling safe. It's a shame this day and age, people don't feel safe. And unfortunately, that's getting worse, I believe. It's not getting any better. And you made a good point about saying in person and online, because a lot happens online and then they meet up. I mean, with social media, I'm not saying it's all bad, but children are vulnerable as well. Absolutely. Yes.
They're vulnerable, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Anita.
Mm.
Everywhere, right?
Mm.
Everywhere, nowhere's a safe place, and it's so
Mm.
sad that that we can't feel safe to go out in our communities and
Mm.
feel safe. People that we know, again, over 50% of violations that happen come from people that we actually know in schools and even in houses of worship, we had a situation where there was a lady I knew, and her and her husband were actually ministers in a local church. But one situation was their daughter got, she was about 17 years old. No, she was 15. And she wanted to go to this party and to be with this guy who was in his 20s. And of course, as any good parents, they said, no, it's not going to happen. But she snuck out of the house, went there anyway. And for 2 whole years, she was gone. She went to the party and they trafficked her for 2 whole years. And so, the story would be okay or be understandable if it stopped there. She got rescued. And she did get rescued. And she came back home, went through a lot of therapy. And her mom just mentioned to her one day, said, listen, if you ever want to speak to young people to help them to understand what you went through so that they won't go through it, we're always open to that. It's totally up to you. And so one day she told her mom, hey, yeah, I'd love to do that. She was about 17 years old at this point. So they go into this church where she's going to speak at. And she goes into the narthex and she begins to weep, crying bitterly, runs out. And her mom says, what's going on? Why are you upset? And she said, the men that violated me are right there in the church now. And so it's a sad scenario, sad situation, but things can happen anywhere. And bad, corrupt people are everywhere. So we as parents need to be extra vigilant. And that's why it's even so much more important for fathers to be involved in the lives of their children as much as possible.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's happening everywhere. It doesn't have to be, community pillars. They can be as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just realizing you have to speak up, you have to be safe. And as much as we don't want to, do listen to our parents, to be honest, They're trying to protect us. I know at a young age you don't want to do what they say all the time, but there is good there. Or at least have the conversation with them that I would like to do this, and maybe they can explain why they don't want you to do certain things. Absolutely. Yes.
It's so important now. She goes around and speaks on these particular issues, and because of her age, she's still well connected to young people in a way that I might not be a few minutes older than her, but it's so powerful when young people. We know a lot of young survivors who got rescued who are able to speak in the lives of other young people, because very often kids don't want to listen to their own parents. But if they know a person maybe in their early 20s has gone through that and they hear the horrors of that story, they're more likely to tune in and to pay attention and say, hey, I don't want to go through what she went through. Let me try a different way. Let me hear what my parents have been saying.
Absolutely. I just can't echo that enough, Daryl. I really can't. So tell me about your book, Your Voice, Her Future, to be released on November 2025.
Absolutely. Really excited about this book. And it comes from the place of encouraging fathers to be active and vocal in the lives of their daughters, so that their present situation will be different, but also that their future will be as well. And it comes from this place. I remember speaking to my daughter when she was in her mid-20s, and she recalled a conversation that we had when I was telling her something, and I can't quite remember what that was, but I remember being surprised that she had actually listened to me when we were talking or having this conversation in her teens. And I thought she didn't listen to me. She wasn't paying any attention. It went in one ear, out the other, as so often we think. But it made me understand through that situation and through research that kids are really listening to their parents. Now, they're not going to tell you all the time, right? That pride won't let you know that. And they may never acknowledge it, but your words are absolutely valuable. When a father speaks positivity, encouragement, and gives her even constructive criticism from a place of love, that can really stabilize her world in the present, but also change her world in the future. So important for us to be involved with our daughters in a vocal way. We not only work and help men, we not only want this book to help men who are outside in society, but also we're taking it into the jails and prisons as well. Because girls still need to hear their father's voices of positivity, hope, and encouragement, even when fathers have found themselves in jail. Oftentimes, the father says, I don't want her to see me during this period. She's embarrassed. I don't want her to connect with me because, I'm just ashamed of the things that I've done. And shame begins to creep in. And before you know it, there's a separation between the father and daughter. But he thinks the daughter doesn't want him or need him. She still wants the voice of her daddy. And so we try to encourage people everywhere, even in prison, to still have a voice, whether you can make a phone call, write a letter, still be a valuable voice in her life. And again, you can make a change for her now, stabilize it, and also make a difference in how she lives out the rest of her life.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. And we'll talk about where they can get the book in a short while. So, what is one of the most important lessons you've learnt over your life so far? Because you're a man on a big mission. I'm sure you've learnt a lot of things and you've been through a lot. Daryl, are you able to answer that question?
I think one of the greatest things I've learned is that, when we've been called to a mission, it's so important to stay on that mission field, if you will. We'll get discouraged. We'll see the problem is too big for us to handle. We'll see it as just too grandiose for us to accomplish anything in our own lifetime. But it's so important for us to stay on mission and on task. And very, very often, there are so many times that I get discouraged. I'll say, am I really making a difference in anybody's lives? Is anything really, really changed? Or is society going to be different? And then immediately I'll think about some young girl who's trapped in a place where she's getting violated over and over again in a situation of human trafficking. And she has no one to help her, no one to call on, and her vulnerability has been snatched. Or I hear a story about a woman who's suffering in silence in a situation of domestic violence, and she wants to hide it because she doesn't want to go through the embarrassment. She doesn't want to leave her house. She can't afford to leave her husband, or so she thinks. And I think about these stories and I'll hear actual stories, and that'll keep me on the proverbial battlefield, wanting to make a difference. So we not only do what we're doing, or we don't do what we're doing just to be doing things, we do them to
Mhm.
actually help other people. And in this particular situation, we're actually saving people's lives and helping them to really grow and advance, and to know that there are people in the world who love them, who care about them, and want to see them live a life that's more abundant than what they might have gone through.
That's absolutely beautiful. And from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to say thank you for what you are doing because you are making a difference. You really are. Keep going, Daryl. Keep going. And I
Appreciate
encourage
it.
everyone around us to help as well. And on a lighter note, Daryl, you like spending time with your wife and your children and your grandchildren, and you like to be playing the piano and writing music. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I've been married for 36 years now. I know I don't seem that old. We probably got married in kindergarten or something like that. But yeah, for 36 years, and we were blessed to have two adult children. Got a son and got a daughter, and got five amazing grandchildren from the age of 12 all the way down to one. And so they're really the joy of our life. We enjoy spending time with them. We're blessed to have them all in the area here in Washington, D.C. And so that's just a great opportunity to spend time to encourage them, to influence them, and just to have fun together. Um, I've been a piano player for the last 30 some years, and just really enjoyed that. That was the thing I really gravitated to um, when I was in late high school years and on. So now I actually have a music school. I run a music school here in Washington, D.C. Don't do it as much anymore in terms of the day to day activities, but love music, love teaching music, love encouraging people through music, and the connection that we have with she's my daughter. We have another project that we're working on with musical artists, songwriters, and spoken word artists around the globe called the Freedom Anthem, where we're creating this recording, which we will take. It's about hope, empowerment, and encouragement. We're taking the recording and putting it into safe houses and shelters where women are recovering from their atrocities, but also selling that as well to help fund the work that we do around the globe to make the world better and safer for women. So we're really excited about that. I'm excited about using my artistic gifts uh, and also galvanizing others' artistic gifts to make the world a better place.
Oh, that is just absolutely beautiful. Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. And yes, absolutely. I look forward to hearing more about that. So, if there was one key takeaway you want every listener to walk away with today, what would that be, Daryl?
The key takeaway is to be vigilant. Be vigilant. Uh, Listen, understand, and that'll lead you to a place of valuing women. When we have the opportunity to connect with women in our sphere of influence, maybe our daughters, our wives, or those we live with, to be connected, be really connected in their lives, and be aware of what's going on in their lives. And so that, especially as men, we can be the guardians, the protectors, the encouragers that we have been called to be. So make a difference in the lives in that small way. Be connected and be vigilant.
That's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. And it does, it starts with everybody. And that's one thing we can do. It's not going to cost a lot, it's not going to cost us anything. And we can do that on a daily basis. And we could protect people, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, where can the listeners find you online? Your foundation, your book? Where can they find you, Daryl?
Absolutely. So you can reach us online at www.shesmydaughter.com. All of our information there. You can have connections to our Instagram account, also our Facebook account through that website. The book will be dropping on November 25th, which is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And so please support our work there. And I hope that it encourages you and blesses you to be a better father with your daughter, but also to encourage other fathers to be connected with their daughters who are in your sphere of influence.
Yeah, thank you for that. And please do, the links will be in the show notes. Do connect, do help in any way you can. Every little bit makes a difference to the bigger picture. It starts with one step and everybody being aware. Thank you for sharing your insightful wisdom and knowledge with us today. And by doing so, I know you have and are helping so many other people and making that difference in the world. Daryl, I really want to acknowledge you for that. Thank you, Daryl Dudley.
Thank you, Anita, for your encouragement and your platform and allowing us to share today. I was just really encouraged. I just appreciate you for your platform. When I thought about your question over the last weeks, this idea of what does courage mean, it encouraged me to say, hey, listen, I need to follow what I think courage is because it's so easy to get discouraged out here. Me, myself, and but your podcast and the ones I've listened to really help push me forward. And also, as we think about survivors of various atrocity, how do we sort of infuse courage upon them because they're coming in situations after having been violated, like you use the term, their souls have been crushed, and so we want them to have courage and live out courage in their own lives, even having come from just a terrible place, a heinous place. And oftentimes we'll have to infuse them, if you will, with our words and our thoughts and our actions to be encouraged in their daily lives. So, I would just tell everybody, be a part of infusing courage upon somebody else. And that's really all encouragement is, and to that infusement of courage, And oftentimes we'll be high on courage, we'll feel really, really strong. And so we
Yeah.
need to let others borrow that, if you will. And so I just appreciate your platform, and Anita, you're changing lives. You're giving people hope. You're helping people take positive steps in their future that they might not have otherwise. And so I know that the inspiration that you get and the value that you have in your conversations are changing lives. And we don't know all the lives that we've changed,
Yeah.
right? Not here on this side, but hopefully one day we'll know that we did make a positive difference. And I just want to encourage you to continue to go forward with your podcast and your platform and bringing light and love into the world.
Thank you so much. I absolutely love and adore that. Thank you. And thank you for your kindness. My absolute pleasure. With that said, we are all about Create the Courage to Be Fearless podcast. What is your definition of courage?
My definition of courage is moving forward in the face of fear. Fear will never be eradicated, ever. We'll always have some element of it, always have something to be scared of, if you will. But moving forward because other people's lives depend on you moving forward, even in the face of fear.